Hey crew, welcome back to another month of Metabolic Stability. We've almost finished a whole other year. We're moving into the fourth quarter. It kind of only makes sense that it's September, football season and things. And this month's Metabolic Stability is one I don't think we've touched on much. I mean, we've got 4 years of content. I'm sure we've talked about it a little bit. But it's the step up and how just valuable of a drill it is in regards to hip mobility, in regards to getting that good posterior chain activation, and all those really wonderful things. So we're out here in the Farm Strong shed. We're going to take a look at a couple really good drills, showing you how important they are to building towards a step up, but also how important they are just to basically use inside of a vacuum, any other type of programming too. So don't always think that you have to use these things in lockstep. We're showing these drills to use in lockstep in regards to how to put them together when we do the write-ups, but also as a way to put some other pieces together to solve some problems that you may be having in other parts of your workouts. So these can also be individually pulled out and put into other places. So let's take a look at the step up, how valuable it is, and how we're going to make it better for you.
Alright guys, we're going to actually start this series by using some glute bridge variations. Now, a lot of you are probably using glute bridges, so nothing too innovative there, except a couple ways I'm going to cue you, and a specific way we're going to use load to help us do the movement. So let's go over the cueing first. So again, we want to really clarify with clients task versus intent. Okay, so the task is to elevate my hips. How I do that is what matters. So instead, if I tell people to lift their hips up, they're generally going to move to the lumbar spine. That's where you get a lot of those chronic people. You're like so frustrated because all they do when they do glute bridge is feel the low back. However, if I switch and focus on the intent, so I'm going to grab the ground, squeeze my butt cheeks together, all of a sudden I feel no tension in my low back and I feel a ton more load in my hamstrings and my glutes. So again, you want to clarify task and intent for your client. Again, we want to use the ground to develop force up just like we would in deadlifts and cleans and other exercises, since the glute bridge is sort of the baseline for all hip hinge patterns. Now, where load comes into play is we can use this a couple different ways. The glutes never work in life by themselves. They work in conjunction with the lats and the core. So by taking our small ultimate sandbag here and just pulling against the handles, I line up my core and my lats, so instantly I'm going to start to use my chain when I go up into the movement. Now, this is a simple and great drill in of its own, but what I want to focus on today is using it to create a very specific pattern. Levi, you can't be on top of me, Bobo.
I told you to have it.
So what I'm going to do is when I press the weight up, I'm going to create some tension against the handles. I want to keep my wrist neutral, so I should see the crease of my elbows forward, just like I would in deadlifts and cleans. So after I bridge up, what I'm going to do is create a diagonal pattern down to one side, keeping tension on the handles, and then bring it as far as I can to the opposing side at an angle, without rotation of my pelvis. Back to the middle. Bring the hips back down. Grab the ground, squeeze the glutes, down to one side, pull apart to the other side. Now what I'm doing is basically creating a lift and chop in a glute bridge pattern. And that's a really important thing because we use lifts and chops to stimulate the core, reflexive core, but in glute bridges we sort of just assume it's going to turn on with no feedback. So we really want to teach the posterior chain to work along with our reflexive core just as we would in any type of real life activity. Over time, I can build a little bit more complexity by not changing the weight per se, but by just changing my level of stability. So, if I go ahead and come up and I go into a single leg variation, I can start simple and I can build up over time to greater ranges of motion. So I can work just the lift or just the chop and eventually start to make them seamlessly together. You want to move at that speed and you're going to be really surprised at how challenging that is to integrate that cross pattern. So what we're doing is making the glute bridge a little bit smarter, because instead of just making a sagitty plane based exercise or just focusing on the glutes, we're focusing upon how those muscle groups work together in real life activity and starting to integrate the different planes of motion to things that we do in everyday life.
Hey crew, welcome back to my first drill in this month's Metabolic Stability in ways to help improve your step up. This is a super valuable drill. It's so valuable that I do it every day. Every time I do my workouts, I have this drill in as kind of a mobilizing drill. I find that if you're somebody that has like some low back issues and has mobility, at least some mobility to be able to get towards this position, there's some other ways to improve this position itself if you can't get there. But if you can get towards this position, this will really help some kind of low back issues, at least for me, or if you have low back issues like me. It's a great drill. It's a great drill to work on all that linkage across the system. It's also working on improving from a more stable position aspects of the step up that we often see go awry. So basically what you're going to need here is an ultimate sandbag, one of the smaller versions, maybe a power. I've got a core here, maybe ideally a core at about 15 to 20 pounds is what you want to look at. You don't need this thing super heavy, but all we're looking at is a lateral Cossack squat with a press out. So we're just tying in that upper body, lower body. You've heard Josh talk about so many times in all his presentations about those link-ins between the upper and lower body and how important it is. It's a great drill. All we're going to do is you're just going to move in position here. It's such a nice big lateral step. Push into position. And then back out. So what we're challenging here is some of that lateral plane of motion, right? Some of those sling systems moving inside of that straight leg and up out the other side of the body. As such, and what we're working on here, obviously we're working on some good hip mobility and posturing, right? The press out helps to stay engaged on the top end and not just kind of, as you often see, kind of slump down and fall over into this, right? If you tried this stuff with clients, you've probably seen something like that before, right? Or if you're super extra stiff trying to do it yourself, you may have experienced it yourself. So what we're trying to help fix here is oftentimes you'll see people when they're doing this step. I'm just going to show you from behind because it's going to give you a much better visual. Is this piece where people are doing that, right? They haven't created the ability, they don't have it yet, or they haven't created the ability to stabilize in that lateral position. So when we challenge that single leg, it's very similar, right? We're moving into this right leg like I was with that lateral Cossacks. And so what happens here is I do this kind of sweep over, or this compensation pattern that I haven't really built to yet, or I don't have the mobility to do yet, so I'm creating a roll or a kind of workaround to create leverage so I can do the drill. So there you have it. This is probably one of my favorite go-to drills, regardless of whether it's a step-up position that we're trying to enhance or just good for your daily life. Lateral step Cossack squat with a press out with USB. Excellent drill. So talk to you soon. Can't wait to show you the second drill.
Hey guys, what we're going to do is actually look at the step up. Now it's an exercise that a lot of people sort of write off as a cardio-based drill, but done correctly, it's really a powerhouse for a lot of glute and hip stability. So one of the things we're going to look at first is that there's different patterns in which we can step up. Now you see I'm doing this barefoot because also just having a firm ground, you want grip with your foot. You want to try to place that emphasis upon that top leg. So something you can do with the down leg to help de-emphasize that down leg is curl up the toes, so you really feel like your torso is going to stay nice and tall as you go into it. You want to try to avoid that forward lean. Coming down, I grip the platform, I come down as slowly as possible. Now, when the thigh is about parallel to the ground, you're going to find that it's probably a really good height for most people as far as optimal hip integration. Most people are going to probably have to start on a lower step. And that's fine, because if you start to go into it, especially under load, and you're leaning into the motion, then it's just probably too high. Now, going from front to back is obviously one of the easier patterns. If I simply just switch to more of a lateral step up, I'm going to challenge more of that frontal plane. So again, it's one of those things that a very subtle change can change the whole outcome of an exercise. So I can change the step up just by changing which side I'm on. So, for example, if I move this sandbag out of the way, I'm just going to show them a little bit more on this side, just so you can see a little more clearly. it's almost going to emulate more of that pistol that Troy's going to talk about. So when I come up, I'm looking that I don't lean to the side. When I come down, I'm gripping the ground. And see how I keep this leg straight? I want to keep my chest as tall as possible. So I don't want my heel to elevate off the ground either. I can also do a crossover. So if I place my foot a little bit over the midline, keep my chest nice tall. I want to keep my hips level, grip the ground, and come up and around. And the tough part is when I come down to control it, grip the ground with my big toe, down under control. Now, most people will try that with their body weight, and that's fine, but it's actually easier with a little bit of load, because again, load can offer feedback. So it's a strength element, but it also gives us feedback, and we can actually integrate more of the body. If I can integrate more of my lats and my core, the better I'm going to move. So we're going to go over a couple of variations that I can use with the ultimate sandbag. So, first off, if I clean the weight into my front load position, if I actively pull the weight apart, I'm integrating my lats and my core. Now see how my elbows stay in close to my ribs. So when I drive up, I actually feel a little bit more stable because I'm integrating more of that chain of the hip. I grab the ground, come down nice and easy. Alright? So that front load position would be our baseline. Now, I can change it just slightly, bring it to a fist position. When I bring in the fist, I still have that anterior load, but I have to create a little bit more tension on my own, and it's pressing down upon me, so I'm getting a little bit more stress. So the same weight feels a little heavier. So again, I'm trying to use those same concepts. I could change the load position and body position. I can move to a cross pattern, either up on the shoulder. So now I'm really finding that lateral stability, and depending on which leg I go, I'm going to start this by using that cross pattern. So load in the opposite side of the stance leg, like you would crawling drills or gait. So when I drive forward, I'm trying to resist rotation, lateral flexion, and produce that force up. So this is almost as close as we can get to actual gait training, because we're teaching the same elements. I'm creating tension in this lat. I want to brace to that opposing side, drive, nice and tall. The final position can be by the hip. Now, for some, depending upon the load you have, this can come either before or after shoulder. If the load's a little heavier, you're going to use shouldering first, because this is going to really pull you down this side. If you have a little lighter weight, use the suitcase position first. So again, asymmetrical pattern first, cross pattern. Now, what I want to do is I don't want to hang out with my arm, I want to squeeze the handle. When I squeeze the handle, can you see I just sort of tighten up and brace and drive up. So again, I'm trying to resist that rotation of the weight. Now, the control coming down can be the most challenging for some of your clients. So you want to make sure that you have appropriate height of the step, appropriate holding position, and appropriate direction you're going with the step up. There's a lot of variations you can use that doesn't exhaust them even close, but it gives you a good baseline to really build that strong foundation and how you can transition it to other movements and have real world strong hips and core.
Hey crew, welcome back to part 2, where we're going to talk about the second drill on how to help improve your step or build your step up just in general. This might seem a little bit weird or awkward, but it's a very, very, very synergistic drill, and I think you'll see it when we put all the pieces together on how the two drills are deeply related. It's something that I've been working on for a while. It might seem way out of bounds for your folks or yourself. Maybe they don't move well, maybe they have issues, back, leg, knee, hip issues. But I think it's really possible. I think it's a position that we can all grab. It's taken me about 8 months to really get a good grab onto this and to move in this position. But it's the pistol. It's actually a weighted pistol. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring you back on how the two related. I'm going to demo the pistol. This is probably a big brother relationship. This is probably a little bit of advancement to the step up. Doesn't mean it's better than the step up, but there's definitely a lot of parallels between the two. Matter of fact, some of the people in the bodyweight culture that really have refined teaching the pistol use some descending step downs, if you will, to help build towards the pistol. So there's definitely a lot of relationship between the two. So boom, here has such a lot of tension right on both legs, not just the down leg, not just, and definitely this leg's just not hanging out, right? So boom, I'm in position. as such. So really good drill. Obviously this really challenges hip mobility, challenges that single leg strength, the ability to push off of the ground and to hold some, like we talked about with that lateral stepping Cossack squat, to hold stability side to side without a leg being on the ground. And this is really important, like, or less, at least a more deloaded leg, in this instance an unloaded leg. So over a period of time, I think that's an achievable thing. We have the step up here. Oftentimes I'm going to show you what happens with step up, but this gives us an intention. And when they talk about building the pattern, right, to get into the pistol, some of the real smart folks out there, they're doing the step down. Often what you see in regards to step ups is this thing where it's just this hurried thing up and down, and how fast can I make it, right? That's not really the intent here. You saw that pistol was really slow. Same thing here, right? This guy is going to be pretty slow. I'm going to push in, I'm going to come up into position, and then I'm just going to slowly descend, right? Looks a lot different than what most of you have probably seen done in regards to step-ups, but it's a great drill. You could totally have sets of eccentric dominant descending step downs. Great drill, but doesn't that position look pretty similar? Right? If I just move my leg, there's not a lot of difference angle-wise between this position and that position. Very, very close relatives. So a really nice piece between the two, using the step up to build the pistol, using the Cossack squat to build mobility so you don't have these really wacky, ugly looking step ups. Using intention that you are required, especially in the pistol, but using the same intention on your step ups and step downs so they just don't turn into this mayhem of how fast can I get up and down off this box, right? Hopefully this has helped you guys take a look at probably one of the most underused drills out there in regards to the step up. I'm not quite sure why. I have a little nugget that I'll share with you in a second, why it's not used, but it's a great drill. It's a super accessible drill. I mean, we've got, you know, big companies like Perform Better have things as small as 4-inch boxes all the way up into the 30-some inch box rings. Nobody's really doing step ups on that high, but probably like a 24-inch box, right? Step up. So there's all this great equipment out there still not being used and done. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why there's not been a value system assigned to them, why they're not valuable. I have a suspicion that it's a little bit equipment dominant or equipment space dominant. I don't think people really put words to that, which is interesting because we use other pieces of equipment and it doesn't seem to matter. But if you take a look at a real cost-effective thing like a tire, and space-effective, we could have 4 people doing step-ups on this thing very quickly and easily in about a 4-foot diameter, right? You know, not a lot of space for that many bodies. So it's a really effective, efficient drill, not only on helping your clients improve their movement, but also in regards to you being cost effective and space effective. So have a good one. Enjoy the fall. We're going into the 4th quarter, so we might have some football stuff for next month's Metabolic Stability, definitely next month's Farm Strong. I'm going to have some nuggets to pull from that for sure. Do some stuff that I'm doing on the side right now. And can't wait to share these last 3 episodes, maybe, what is it, September, October, November, December? 4 episodes with you, so have a good one.